We always start at the same place. We do not throw color against the wall, meaning it's a non-execution driven process. Execution driven is let's get the 10 best music companies in the world and have them each produce a sonic logo, and then we'll pick one and implement that globally, and then we're done. Check.
Yeah.
I
was going to ask you what your process is. Yeah. So
that's the old world, The new world is, let's do some homework. Let's understand what we want.
Welcome to Audio Branding, the hidden gem of marketing. Sound plays a more important role in human behavior and our decision-making than you may realize. In this podcast, I'll help you understand the art and science of sound so you can better influence others in business and your life. I'm your host, Jody Krangle. Let's delve a little deeper. Here's the second part of my interview with Uli Reese. Talking about car manufacturers, how do you do this for Mercedes then? Have you created like a soundscape for them to use that people can just go into the same way that MasterCard does, or?
Yeah, I mean, it's we always start at the same place. We do not throw color against the wall, meaning it's a non-execution driven process. Execution driven is let's get the 10 best music companies in the world and have them each produce a sonic logo, and then we'll pick one and implement that globally, and then we're done. Check.
Yeah.
I
was going to ask you what your process is. Yeah. So
that's the old world, The new world is, let's do some homework. Let's understand what we want. And it's mind-boggling when you do an anonymous test around the top board of a brand and say, who are we? Can you just 5 adjectives? And it's enormous when you come out, and if it's anonymous, and you have almost 50 different opinions. And I say, okay, if we fail here, and we have not written a note, we have not played anything, if we fail here, how can we possibly develop something that's going to be valid for decades to come? So unless we completely understand where we are with the brand, who we are, where we want to go, maybe we're a respect brand and want to become a love brand, we need to completely, put that down in writing and understand. Only then we can start a process, but not before.
Yeah. So you're looking into archetypes? Is that kind of what the
archetypes,
emotions are
course,
trying?
But basically understanding the brand inside and out.
Yeah.
And in terms of process, we usually do 5 to 6 routes, and all of them will work. But usually 1 or 2 are better suited. And we do incredibly deep flexibility tests, because that's where most, sonic identities that don't fly, that's the problem. They're not flexible enough to go through different styles, different lengths, it needs to be like a chewing gum, and it needs to be really stress tested. And then
how do you stress test that when you haven't yet implemented it? I'm curious.
It's as simple as doing 10 different versions. Let's have a Christmas song. Let's have a UX UI sound when you swipe the card. Let's have a 2-hour soundscape for, I don't know, a pop-up restaurant in Manhattan. Let's have whatever, it's like,
sure,
that's what I mean. In terms of only then you're faced with, I didn't think of that. Sorry. And then you could go back and say, okay, let's look at this again. And only then you go in and implement it into especially product sounds.
Oh, yeah.
Product sounds is
So needed.
is to me a huge one. I lived in the States for a long time, and I would like sit outside a parking lot at Cheesecake Factory, right? They always have this outside patio on the parking lot. And you hear people unlocking their cars or locking the cars. And what do you hear?
Beep, beep.
It's hardwired to the
It's
hardwired to the horn of the car, because they wanted to save the money of, first of all, they didn't have any sonic identity that they could then portray, because it's a great opportunity to open or close a car with an identity, but we didn't want to invest that money. But then what they do is they hardwire the sound. You know what that is? That's the horn of the car.
Yeah.
That's exactly the same thing. It's just, and I think like, guys, first of all, it's annoying while you have dinner to hear all these sounds, and none of them are nice. None. It's just, okay, it's almost like a slot machine in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
It's like the confirmation of something happened. Okay, click, wonderful. Which is something satisfying, understood, but that can be nice. That can be like Apple, where, their sonic branding is 180 degrees, because what they do is they have the click sound of the camera in a commercial, and they were so disciplined in using that now everybody recognizes that and say, that must be an Apple commercial, even if the music is not there. But that's really interesting when you go there. But brands are pretty much in terms of process. You start at the center, and with Mercedes, it's interesting. It was iteratively. It was not a big bang. It was not, here we are, this is our sonic identity. It was piece by piece by piece. And it was interesting that we had the IAA, which is the biggest car show in the world. That's usually in Frankfurt, but now it was in Munich. And what was interesting was Mercedes-Benz was the first brand having all DNA-based music on every footage that ran there. So just think that through.
Interesting.
Because they're not only doing one car show a year, they're doing 13. And before the choice for a car show for the music was, does hip hop fit to Mercedes this year? That was
okay.
the precision of the question. And then, well, why can I not recognize this and tell it apart from Audi or VW when I close my eyes? Because I cannot. And they probably all do hip hop. And then they trash it a year later because they feel we need to do something else. Now, think that through. 13 car shows. It's enormous. And Mercedes, it was the first one, and nobody really heard it. Nobody could put, a finger on it. But it's like they exchanging everything with DNA-based music that is owned by the brand, that, that was a benchmark that they said, they said, we need to outright own this identity. Think we're 136 years old. Think about the next 136 years. And this is your horizon, and we need to build it on that. And then, we want to be as known as, when you walk by a Mercedes and see the star, you probably know it's a Mercedes, right? You probably know it from global design language. Even if it's 1957, a 300 SL still looks Mercedes. And so this is what they want sonically, and they completely understood.
Yeah.
Okay, we got it, but now how do we go at it? How do we really translate the star, the 3-point star, into sonic, because that's what we want to end up with in terms of recognizability, in terms of recall.
Are you looking for ways to improve your company's or podcast's impact? You'd be surprised how powerful the use of an intentional audio branding strategy can be. Want to know more? I have a free downloadable PDF that gives you my 5 tips for implementing an intentional audio strategy at voiceoversandvocals.com/audio-branding-strategy. That location does ask to put you on a mailing list, just to send you updates on when the new podcasts come out. But if you really don't want to give your email out, I understand. Just contact me directly. My email is all over my website, and I'll make sure you get that PDF without needing to sign up anywhere. If you do sign up, though, you also get access to a resources section called The Studio, where I have videos, white papers and PDFs, discounts from my guests, and snippets of audio from my guests that no one else gets to hear. So maybe it's worth your while. Totally up to you. And of course, if you're looking for voiceovers, you can get in touch with me about that too. Now, back to the podcast.
You know, I had Steve Keller, who I know that you know. I had him in I had him in a clubhouse recently, and he was talking about automotive being like the next frontier of sound design, because inside the cars, there's all sorts of things that can happen sound-wise. And you can make that an environment that is incredibly interesting to the people driving that car. And, you know, when you get into self-driving cars, that becomes even more important because people are going to have to do something when they're in that car, right? So where do you think this is going?
No, the biggest gift of autonomous driving, and it's a question of when, not if. It's a given. Is you get time. The most valuable asset in your life will be given to you. You don't have to, concentrate for 4 hours going from one city to the next. And of course, what you do there in that time, you can sleep, you can whatever, but chances are you might want to be entertained or might want to listen to something, and then all of a sudden it's that environment, the possibilities, and I mean that is more an entertainment thing. What I think is highly interesting is there's so many brands where one of their main equity points of the brand is their sound. You know how important sound is for Ferrari or Lamborghini or Maserati? That's what people pay money for. Serious money is to get that Maserati sound. Now, there's no option for them. They cannot stay combustion. It's over. It's just a matter of time. They will go electric.
How do you present?
So how do you translate a mega asset to the new world? Because you can't just redesign it. It's like that. To me is one of the most fascinating stories in terms of sound. Is how do you take an asset like that? Think about Porsche, about all these car manufacturers where you remember the sound. That's so visceral and
how do you think they're going to do that? I have no idea how they would do that.
Well, we already have electric cars. We have electric.
Oh, I know we have electric cars.
Mercedes-Benz.
But how are they going to sound like that?
Well, they already do. I mean, one of the most incredible sounds is the Porsche Taycan, the electric Porsche, and I mean they're completely artificial. That sound has nothing to do with the electromotor at the wheel. It's like there's no explosion in space. There's no sound. So let's be real. Yes, it's fake. Yes, it's made. It's designed.
So is it being played through speakers in the car? Are people outside the car hearing that sound?
Of course. Yeah, outside.
Okay, that's interesting.
Inside, you still need the confirmation, the payback when you floor it. You need outside in terms of security. There's a certain level of noise a car has to make by law, so you don't have accidents.
Of course, yeah.
And I mean the only way to get your attention when you walk through New York and I'm an ambulance, I don't wave at you. I'm extremely loud, and I'll make it visceral in terms of sonic.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack there, but yeah, I mean, electric cars are definitely the future, of course. How do we translate the audio assets to those cars when they've been such a big part of that car's brand DNA? Yeah, and translating the sound of the car, like, do you always, well, with Mercedes, for instance, when you came up with the sound for them, was part of that what their car sounds like? Or was that not even really a worry? Like, when you come up with these things, is there also a sound component as opposed to just a music component?
Absolutely. But we try to have it be, I always say, it needs to have a mother. Meaning, I want to be drastic. The Intel logo does not have a mother. Meaning, it's not a sonic DNA, and then it was a derivative of that. And then it could be another derivative of that could be a product sound for Intel, or a longer version, or whatever. That's what I mean by this.
Sure.
And so if you translate the closing of a car door to and say, okay, I want this also to be connected to the sonic DNA. For that, I think we need another 90 minutes.
Yeah, it's going to be a big question. Actually, why, instead of going there then, why don't I ask you, because this could take a little while too, where do you think the future of sound is going? Not just in brands, I guess, but where do you see it popping up? Where do you see this being used, I guess, in its most interesting form, maybe?
Why is everybody asking me about the future of sound?
Because we're curious.
Everybody says, Uli, you should know. And I always say, no, I don't. I've no clue. Just.
Where would you like to see it go?
No. Yeah, well, there are a few things I think that let's say will not change. Which is, sound is the first sense we experience trust with.
Oh, good point.
In our mother's womb.
Yeah.
We hear the heartbeat, we hear the voice. When we become adults, when we're brands, we're first and foremost in the trust building business. It doesn't matter what we sell, no trust, no sale, full stop. And that is really important, in when you say, where are we going to go in the future? And that will hold true for the future is, hi, I'm a brand. I want to be your best friend of 20 years that you completely trust, that has no sales agenda, and that only has the best for you in mind. Now, if I speak like this and then speak like this and then, but it's not gonna happen. And this is just simple voice. It's like, I always say, guys, in the future, whatever you do, be consistent. Even if people don't like you, they love that you're being authentic and consistent and say, this is me. This is okay. And, we're looking at what? 11 million bits a second on transmission. you can influence dopamine and serotonin and oxytocin, the trust hormone. But I always say, just be consistent. Have something that you can derive things from. Also, do not design anything for an iPhone.
Why is that?
Well, because it will go away. I guarantee.
Oh, yes. Okay. I get it.
Don't design anything for hardware or whatever. Design for this. The ear will stay for a while, maybe a few hundred years. And the way this goes in here into our subconscious, where we make all of our buying decisions. So don't care about any hardware. Don't care about whether it's TikTok or whatever. It's gonna go. And there will be new TikToks and new wonderful things. It's like, I love it all, but don't design for that. That doesn't make sense. Have something that's flexible enough to be able to be 4 seconds, 12 seconds, 15, and that's just have that. So, that is the future in terms of Sonic. I think what we're also the future is we will learn a lot more of the medical point of view, what Sonic does, and we understand it's extremely important, and subconscious. It's just the old story. If you're sitting on an elephant that goes north, but you say all day long, I want to go south. Guess where you're gonna go?
Yeah.
You're gonna go north because you're sitting on the elephant, and the elephant makes a decision. And you always say, I don't know, why didn't I end up south? Yeah, because your subconscious already made the decision, and now you're post-rationalizing. It's okay that it's as simple as buying a car. Oh, it's great gas mileage, and it's all wonderful. I always say, bullshit. You fell in love with a car. Check.
Yeah.
And you bought the car. Yeah. It's okay.
We don't make logical decisions. We make decisions based on emotion. Yeah. So that's why sound is so important for all of this, because that hits us in our emotion, right? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I wanted to ask you also what you're working on now. Is there anything that you can talk about that you're excited about?
They're just a couple of great brands that we're allowed to talk about that we're working on. Working on Verizon, on Pepsi, on Uber, and these are exciting cases as they shape up. But
I'm looking forward to hearing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just absolutely amazing, and I can't wait to just look at the first case studies. I'm only allowed to look into the Dropbox and see what the latest dates and then listen to that. But it's
very exciting.
It's absolutely fascinating.
Yeah.
And it's brands, Sonic grew so fast in the last 3, 4, 5 years and became so dominant so quickly that so many brands feel flat-footed. They feel like we're too late to the party. We should have dealt with this 5 years ago. We always knew, but we did not. It's okay. They're not alone. But at least now you have so many brands that go really sit at the table and say, Sonic is in the top 5 major issues for brands now. That would have been impossible, 10 years ago. It would have been number 32, and that doesn't win the cake. Mm-hmm. Now it's like, well, I have a $40 billion screenless ecosystem market. Do I want to participate on that platform or not? It's an economic question, and you cannot show up there. unprepared. And with like, yeah, I'll just license, some stock music will do, or whatever. No. That's not going to happen. You need to, and that's just there. Going in the metaverse, whatever that will be, I think there'll be thousands of metaverses out there, because what do you need? You need to be able to code Python, and then what? You need to be able to design. And you'll have your own metaverse. And maybe it's smarter than the big guns and everything. So but the point is, me as a consumer, I expect you to sound at least as good as you are in reality in the metaverse, or whatever that experience might be. But I'm also going to expect you to use all the possibilities that you're going to have sonically in that environment.
Oh, so much.
Because that's mind-boggling. I mean, the think about all the new stuff, all the opportunities. It could be overwhelming.
Yeah.
I see that. But that's completely fascinating. I mean, to be in this, and that it's now the center of attention, and the 10 years ago, it was fine if you would say as a CMO, we're a visually driven brand. Sonic is just not that important for us, and we're just wired differently. That was fine for a CMO. Today, if you say the same thing, you're
going to be left behind.
Yeah.
So
you need to be.
Yeah, definitely. You need to be on top of it.
I know that we're all dealing with a lot of stuff these days, so I particularly wanted to acknowledge those that have taken the time to leave honest reviews of this podcast, like Pamela Muldoon, who says, audio as part of your marketing strategy. I could not agree more with Jody's assessment that audio branding is the hidden gem of marketing. Now more than ever, how your brand sounds is becoming just as important as it looks and feels. The short, succinct episodes of this podcast, and I think she's referring to my solo episodes, are filled with nuggets, easy to listen to, that voice, thank you very much, and are perfect for binging. Nice work, Jody. Well, thank you, Pamela. It means a lot to me that you're getting some good information here. Thanks again for the review. And now, back to the show.
I was just going to ask you, because you were talking about Cannes, and I'm wondering if a lot of the brands that you encountered at Cannes had given a lot of this some thought, because, of course, it's becoming more and more needed. So what were you seeing at Cannes that gave you a idea that this was the up-and-coming thing?
What's interesting, and it's great that you touch on that, is that... I do 101 Great Minds, and I interview about 2 CMOs a week, and so I have like my finger on the pulse. What was also interesting, I was invited to be. There were like closed sessions of the Global CMO Growth Council, and I was invited to sit in on all sessions, and that was really interesting to understand. Okay, the door is closed now. Let's solve some problems. But what I don't get, and this is difficult also, I ask all the CMOs, and they say, Uli, this is so important that there's a platform, and you talk about this, and it's like, and I say it's so, but why Sonic has become so important, but still I don't see a reflection at Cannes, a reflection at the CES, or at some of these other big summits where that is not reflected, where I would say, well, at least 20% of the sessions should be about this, because that's how important it is. And you have still this niche kind of boutique small thing, and so this, I really hope that more and more CMOs talk about this and say, we want to talk about this at Cannes. We want that we have discussion about this in forums, and yes, we feel maybe insecure about it. It's okay. It's okay. Everybody, with 101, everybody sitting down at the virtual roundtable is saying, I don't know. All I know is I need to ask better questions to solve the problems that will make my brand sonically future-proof. I can't just sit here and say, yeah, whatever. It's gonna be fine. It's gonna sound somehow. Mm-hmm. That's not gonna stick. So.
Yeah, it's a tough question. And I hope that Cannes takes that under consideration and gives it some serious thought. I think that, as you say, if people ask for it, they will provide. I would suspect it's going to become even more important.
Absolutely. But it's also important to understand what to talk about it. It's not about here's another catalog of independent artists that are going to be great to license for your brand. It's like, really? Is that what you want to talk about? No, let's not talk about that again. Okay, That's fine. It's wonderful, but we have different issues, different problems to solve, and that are right in the center of what a CMO needs to do. It needs to understand, and and that's when I talk to them, so many of them say, Uli, I know our agencies, our partners, they have the best intentions, the absolute best intentions, but I keep hearing the same stuff, and whatever you guys doing seems to be a different solution that's sustainable, it's ownable, it's trackable, it's all these things, and that is what the future needs. We need innovation in terms of sonic. I don't care if it's called sonic branding or audio branding, whatever, but where we are will not get us into a solid future.
Yeah, so true. So it sounds to me like you need to put together a panel for 2023. That's what it sounds like to me. And going into that, how can people get in touch with you if they would like to get in touch with you? Because I think people should be asking you about this.
No, absolutely. Please just Google me. My favorite tool of communication is LinkedIn. I post about two interviews a week, and there's a big discussion going on. But that's, of course, our company, ampsoundbranding.com, go on to look at the case studies and just enjoy. So, but to get in touch with me, definitely LinkedIn, and I almost, no, I actually do answer everything.
Good to know. Good to know. Yes. And really quickly, I want to ask you, because I read this in your bio on the AMP website. It says your superpower is Aquaman, and I want to know why. Why?
And I talk to fish.
Yeah.
I don't know. We all had to come up with a superpower. And
okay.
It was just like I was always I love open water diving. I love to be in the water, and I just it was kind of, it has no deep meaning.
So Aquaman came to mind. Got it. Okay.
It just came to mind.
I was just curious because I read that, and I had to ask. But thank you so much for being here, Uli. I so appreciate you taking the time today, and I look forward to more discussions in the future.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me, Jody, and hopefully I could add some value to the discussion.
Definitely. Thank you so much.
That's my goal.
Well, that's the end of this episode. Thanks for listening. And if you like what you heard, why not tell a friend about this podcast? It's available in all the usual locations. Until next time.